Oh, it's there. Okay. So, hello from me, and I'm this guy. Yeah. I'm going to talk about this piece you have the chance to hear tonight, those of you who are there. So I'll try to be a bit short now, displaying some characteristics of the piece, the way it was recorded, first about the idea, the way it was conceived, and some aesthetic issues concerning the work. And also we have some examples, some audio examples to demonstrate. So, about the idea of the piece, as you can easily understand from the title, it is, I would say it's inspired by the world of insects. It's about the microcosmic reality of this part of nature. So, this is the first big thing in the piece. Also, there is a general idea of flying. So, throughout the piece, there are sounds that indicate the idea of flying around, so as to imitate insects or real insect sounds that are present in there. And if I was to describe the piece, I would say that it's like a journey. It's like a journey on an insect, because metaphorically it places the listener exactly on this position. But of course, all of this is just like an artistic impression. It's not any kind of real representation of anything really found in nature, but it's quite metaphorical, and so it's not an effort to represent what really exists out there. So we could describe this as an imaginary world, something that it is created out of real and abstract sounds, and it is expressed through music in a musical way, meaning that it is presented, it evolves through certain musical forms. So at this point I have a short example from the introduction to get you an idea of how the piece sounds in the beginning. So this is the introduction. So, as you can figure out from what you've just heard, it's a world of flying sounds or flying behaviors, which are mixed with, some of real sounds, recorded sounds from nature, which are mixed with electronic sounds, and they create this imaginary flying world. So, let's talk about a bit about the sound materials I used to do this. There are two kinds of sounds that we can find there. First, there are environmental sounds, as you can see on the left, and also electronic and some instrumental sounds. In the first category of sounds, we have some insect recordings, of course, like bees, but not only bees, like wasps, like flies, etc. We have the sound of the seashore, and also some forest recordings, some soundscapes of more general sound images. And also some ground noises, which are sounds that were created by human intervention, actually by me interacting with the materials of the ground, like stones, pieces of wood, etc. So on the other side we have electronic sounds, but it's too dark to see there, sorry. It's like generated noise, sine waves, which we all know how they sound like, but also some complex synthesizer sounds, and also some sounds I recorded from musical instruments such as the piano, the flute, and the violin. So through the course of the sound editing in the piece, so through the course of composition, these two sound worlds, they seem to converge, meaning that first of all, the environmental sounds, they tend to lose their identity. They tend to transform in something that is not real or something that is supernatural. So they lose their original natural identity. And on the other hand, the electronic sounds, I tried to make them sound natural, meaning that I tried to transform them in a way that they adopt a natural character. They like they imitate natural behaviors. So it's interesting to see now how the compositional process went through. Of course, as you can see from this picture, is from the sequencer I used. A lot of computer editing was carried out. A lot of stuff based on the digital processes of computer software. But I would say that the compositional process for me did not begin at this point, did not begin in the studio. It began out there in the, in nature, in the wild, where the initial recorded sounds, or the first recordings were made. So here are some, well, I can show you some spaces, some areas. There are quite a lot, but I'll try to be short with that, because I could be showing you photos around, and it's long. Oh, that's another dark map there of Greece. So the areas, if you can, as far as you can see, the red circles are the areas where sounds were recorded. So we're talking about two Greek islands on the west coast. This is the island of Corfu up there, and the island of Kefalonia to the north. And also there is some mountain areas in mainland, in Greek mainland. So here are some photos of the islands. This is from Corfu, the north part of Corfu. So as you can see, it's mostly coastal areas near the sea. So the sound of the sea is present in many of these pictures, many of these sounds. So here are some interesting spots to place the microphone. This is again from Corfu, and some night recordings as well were carried out with me and some colleagues and friends. This is the other island, Kefalonia, again recording the sea. So, and within the same island, it's because it's elevated, we find contrasting soundscapes. Like 1 minute we're in the sea, and 10 minutes later we're on the top of a high mountain. So we have forests and forest sounds like this, with pine trees and totally different atmosphere and totally different sound world. So a lot of insects were actually there because that was summertime. And of course, this is from places in the mainland where we recorded, we had many recordings of domestic beehives where the bees live, it's their home, and so domestic bees, of course, live, and so we had pure bee sounds. So I would like to play some of these sounds now. First of all, the bee. So actually what you heard here is the hive, a lot of bees, and each one trying to get in and get out of it. So you see this passing in front of the microphone. It's very, very near. Of course, I was not very near. I was a bit far because there's some danger of attacking me if I disturb their privacy. So another sound, or another, which surprisingly for me was full of insects because it's summer, is the forest sound. But in this case, insect sounds are mixed with birds, like you can. So this was actually quite a noisy place for a forest, but this was central summer and it was hot, and so we had lots of insects there. Was during noontime. Another one, a bit more unfocused, more distant. Apart from these kinds of sounds, we had also the sound of the sea, the seashore, summer morning. And another example of the ground noises I mentioned earlier, which is actually the interaction with the ground, a sound which is usual, we are used to when visiting forests. We can hear the soundscape, but we also can hear ourselves walking and making sounds. So, it's interesting to see now how some of these sounds, of course there are many others, as you can understand. This is just highlights of sounds I would like to show you. And so during the sound processing, it's interesting to see how these sounds evolved, to see some samples, but also it's interesting for me to demonstrate the way that electronic sounds were transformed, not only the natural sounds. So in the beginning, on the other hand, we had electronic sounds like white noise or sine waves, which are simple and plain electronically generated sounds. And as I said, I tried to change these sounds in a way as to simulate natural sources, but not exactly, but to sound like something more natural, like this example here. So this example is from white noise, which was transformed using techniques like this. Like it was first shaped, the amplitude was shaped in a wavy motion, and then it was pitch shifted, so its pitch changed upwards and downwards, and then it was multiplied in multiple layers. So we had different files, different sound files created, and different pitches, and then they mixed together to create this kind of sound, which actually does not sound like anything specific, but I would say it sounds like the sound of the wind, or the sound of the sea, or the sound of an animal moving, or something like that. So we can somehow relate it to the natural world. Another example is this short, noisy stuff. Okay. This is, again, noise, which is transformed as to simulate something flying around in the same way. So, some more examples on the seashore sound, which we heard earlier, was spinned around to create something like wind motion. And also some passages which are created through Doppler effects. Is that something is passing very fast in front of us. Another. And another one. Okay. There are many examples to demonstrate, but I think we're running out of time, so I have to be finishing here with some aesthetic issues, which is very important to mention. That the first has to do with sound recognition, the way we recognize the sounds in the piece. So we have sounds that can be recognized, like sound sources, like the bees I mentioned, sound behaviors, and sound images, like the forest image. Also non-recognizable sounds, sounds which are abstract, and these are mostly the electronic and transformed sounds. And something in between, the ambiguity, is important to me. So I would say that the piece in general is a hybrid is a hybrid environment which cannot exactly be recognizable. So, and the final thing has to do with the form, the way the timbre transforms through time. So, while at the beginning the piece is granular and noisy and many things happen, in the end it becomes more pitched and harmonic, and also it becomes more wavy and coordinated. So you've heard the beginning, so I'm now going to play some final example from the ending of the piece, which is totally different. It's a harmonic atmosphere. Okay, the rest of it you can hear tonight in the concert, if you decide to come. So thank you very much.